Steve, I love being behind the scenes. The green room, if I could hang out in the green room like the entire show, I would hang out here because this is really where the magic happens. It really is. Take a moment if you don't mind, because I don't want to read this long bio right now. Take a moment, and if you don't mind, tell the audience a little about who is Steve and what is Steve up to these days?
Well, welcome to the green room, everyone. I'm super excited about being here. This is great. I've had an interesting journey. We'll talk a little bit about it during the actual show. But right now, my passion, my purpose is helping people to overcome the mental barriers that they experience in terms of their own success. Every one of us has a hope, a dream, a desire to get somewhere beyond where we are now, to live up to our potential. And we've got these mental blocks and barriers that tend to stop and interrupt us. And I just love, playing with that with people in a really, kind of lighthearted way, so that we learn something that we can use without being made to feel bad that we're not where we want to be.
I love that, not feeling bad where we want to be. And for folks that are tuning in or they're starting to tune in right now, what should they expect today?
We're going to talk a lot about the inner game of success, the psychology of success. We're going to look at habits and attitudes that determine whether or not you're going where you want to go. Maybe some signposts along the way about what's really interrupting that progress for you. And we could look at both the some of the skill sets as well as the mindsets of highly successful people. So that for the audience, you guys out there, a lot of you are entrepreneurs or small business owners and are looking for some answers for how to take this kind of psychological mindfulness work and make it practical in your life. So we're gonna try to take as much of a practical approach to this as possible.
I love that you talked about habits just a moment ago, and I know one of the ways we connected was with a really cool guy. His name is Eric Swanson, and he's with Habitude Warrior. And y'all can all check out habitudewarrior.com. Again, habitudewarrior.com. And he has a conference that goes on, several conferences throughout the year. It seems like almost every other month. And I know you speak on that stage. Take a moment just before we get kicked off. And I know you may not have been prepared for this, but talk a little bit about Habitude Conference and the importance of why that project exists. Spearheaded by Eric Swanson, man. Thanks a lot.
For me, it is vitally important because every one of us needs to tune ourselves up, so to speak. What we call sharpening your saw, right? It's unless we're doing something to like really work with our inner state. Then what happens over time is we get really caught up in the minutia of our day-to-day lives. We get caught up in our crises. And we're not looking out into the future and seeing where we're going anymore. We're just putting out fires. So we invite people to attend this remarkable conference, the Habitude Warrior Conference. And habitude, by the way, is a word that comes from the combination of habits and attitudes. Mm-hmm. So it is our habits and our attitudes that determine our altitude and our aptitude. Right? So why we get and how well we do what we do comes from our habits and our attitudes. And the most successful people in the world have mastered time management and goal setting and prospecting and being disciplined in what they do and learning how to manage their mindset so that when things do get discouraging and frustrating, they know how to bounce back from it. So we take we take a group of about 22 remarkable speakers, put them on a stage in front of maybe 200 to 300 people. So it's a small enough group that you really get to be up close and personal with thought leaders. And these are the people who have written the books that you've read, right? We've got people like Sharon Lechter, who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We've got Frank Shankwitz, the founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation. Dan Clark, my favorite speaker in the world, one of the top 5 motivational speakers in the world, and the inspiration for Chicken Soup for the Soul. So just like remarkable people. And, I can't tell you what a remarkable difference it makes to put yourself in that environment, to get in front of people who have lived their lives in that way.
Man,
right?
that is really special.
Successful doing it. Millionaires, billionaires, people who have, succeeded in a massive way in the real world, in a financial way, but also have given back, have made a difference. And that's what really floats my boat. And I always am excited to share it with other people too.
Well, thanks a lot, Eric Swanson, man. You're a rock star. Not only did he say he was going to connect us together, but he actually connected it right in that moment we were talking, and that's the reason you're here. And thanks. I'm going to encourage everyone to go over to habitudewarrior.com. Again, www.habitudewarrior.com. Check it out. Get there. Get there. No matter what, get there. Eric, thanks a lot. We appreciate you. For Nicole Brown Hurston is watching, and Jacqueline Fulton and Renee Starlin Allen, and so many folks that are tuning in, they might be wondering, not what is your big why, okay? I'm sure that's a big question, but really, what mission are you on now? What's your purpose in life for where you are right now?
I think that there are gaps in the way that personal development is taught, and I feel like I've got a particular way of looking at things that fills in the gap. And so my mission is to maybe speak to the people who have noticed that, they sometimes go to seminars, they read books, and there's still something missing. It's like, why am I not taking action? What's really in the way? And I feel like I've got answers to that. And hopefully over the course of our 40 minutes or 45 minutes here today, we'll cover some of that and maybe leave our audience with some really practical tools and tips, and maybe answers to questions about why. Why am I not where I want to be? How come I get excited about something and then I start moving towards it, and then something gets in the way? What is that something? What's the thing that stops me? And how do I gain power over that? And I think you're going to learn some new things today about that.
Man, I'm looking forward to it, learning some new things. Again, Eric, you rock. Everyone go over to habitudewarrior.com. Again, www.habitudewarrior.com. I'm getting the green light that I got to get going here. So we got to get kicked off. So we're going to get going. It's my favorite part, by the way, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be an all-star lineup. I can't wait. It's showtime. Promise I made to my mom. I only did this message for one person, and that's my mom. This is for you, Mom. Love you. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Shay Brown.
Mic check, mic check.
All I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
Yes. Yeah.
And they stay there. And they stay there, and they stay there. Cause all I do is win.
Well, it's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue-focused late-night show in the country where we're on a mission. And our mission is to inspire. Our mission is to empower. And our mission is to provide you, that's right, you, the entrepreneur, you the single mom, you the single dad, you the married person, you the person who gets up every single day to make a difference in this world, and more importantly, the backbone of this country here in the United States of America, to make sure you have the resources necessary to execute 3 visions that I believe you have. In order to execute those visions, it takes revenue. So you have a vision for yourself, the way you want to live, the clothes you want to buy, the food you want to eat. It takes resources, which means it takes revenue, and that's why we exist. Some of you have a vision for the people that you love, your loved ones. Mother dear, someone I get a chance to take to therapy twice a week. My mom is a wonderful person, and it feels good afterwards if she wants to go to the grocery store just to swipe the credit card for her. If she wants to order something off of Amazon, be able to do that for her, and it takes revenue to do that. It takes resources. And some of you want to do that for your family. Some of you want to write a check for someone's healthcare insurance. Revenue, resources, or many of you have a resource for the people you are called to serve. And no matter what your belief is right now, I happen to be a believer. If you look at the good book, there's a guy by the name of Noah in this good book. And imagine if Noah had a vision given to him and there was no hammer, no resources. There was no nail, no resources. He didn't even have any freaking wood or a team, no resources. He could never execute that vision. And that's why we exist today. So this morning, this evening, this afternoon, Steve showed up for one reason only, and that is to help make sure you have the resources necessary to go out there and do the things you want to do. So Steve, once again, thanks a lot for being on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. I'm so excited to be here. Very inspiring piece of footage there at the beginning of your show, and that was an inspiring little piece of wisdom that you just shared with us.
Thank you so much. I certainly appreciate it. Can we just address the elephant in the room if we can? And people, you hear this mental mindset, mental barriers. I'm not trying to be funny or anything. I'm really not. Get to success. Can you take a moment and talk about what do you do to help people overcome mental barriers? I mean, that was like the big bold claim you put right there. I'm like, oh my gosh, what does the guy really do? So you take a moment for Eric, who's watching, by the way, William, who's watching right now, Karen, who's watching right now, and so many others. I hate to jump right into it, but what do you do to help people really overcome mental barriers?
Well, let's start with this. The first, there's a philosopher named Gurdjieff who said the first step for escaping from prison is realizing you're in prison, right? And that's also true of the prison of our minds, right? The first step for like breaking out is realizing you're the one who's been creating your own limitations. Most of us don't realize that. Most of us put the responsibility for where we're not getting outside of ourselves. So I'll tell you a story, and this kind of illustrates the whole concept of mental barriers. What you may or may not know is that I was the official hypnotist for MTV's Spring Break a few years back.
Oh, cool stuff, man. That is like cool. Yes.
Dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
I was feeling for you, man. I was feeling for you.
I was doing a show where I had like 2,500 students on the beach, and I was up on the big stage, those rock star stages, and I was hypnotizing about 25 kids. And I was doing all the things that you've seen in these shows. I've got some of them, they're milking a cow or they're conducting an orchestra. I've got one guy thinks he's pregnant. Another guy thinks he's the father. And in the middle of the show, I decided to try something different. And I took one of my subjects and I said, when you wake up, 3 things are going to happen. I said, number 1, you don't believe you're hypnotized, even though you are. I said, number 2, this is the worst show you've ever seen and you are aggravated with me. And I said, number 3, there's an invisible wall 3 feet in front of you. So I wake everybody up. I say, how's everybody doing? This one guy screams, you suck. I said, well, then leave. And the guy gets up. He takes 3 steps and he hits the wall. He starts pushing and pushing, and he can't get through it. And he finally sits back down, and he crosses his arms, and he starts to pout. It's like this. I said, what's the problem? He goes, nothing. I said, are you hypnotized? He goes, no. I said, are you having fun? He says, no. I said, well, then why don't you leave? And the guy thinks for a minute. And he says, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. And I realized something in that moment, and that is, that's all of us, right? We all have a place we want to go. You guys want to, accumulate wealth. You want to have revenue. You want to make an impact on your community and on your family. And you want to live a happy and joyful life. And you want to sense freedom. And that's all out there in front of you. And you start moving toward that through the goals that you set and the objectives. And then inevitably, you hit the wall. And that might look like any number of things. For a lot of us, the wall is when suddenly, in the middle of moving toward our goals, we become so discouraged that we give up. Or we're so overwhelmed and so frustrated that we stop. Or sometimes it's more sneaky than that. And we just get bored. You've seen that happen too, where, you're on fire trying to accomplish something. And then for some reason, you're just thinking, oh, what's the point? And that's the ego trying to stop you from growing, right? Because growth can be uncomfortable. It means you got to sort of remove the old skin in order to grow into a new skin. And we're very safe and cozy in the skin that we're in. So when we hit these walls, when we encounter these experiences where we can't get beyond it, the first thing we have to realize is that effort, just like our friend in the story, effort and stress and pushing don't get you where you want to go, because as hard as you're pushing against it, it's pushing back against you because it's all in your mind. So what does that tell us? It tells us that if the obstacles are internal, then effort won't get us there, but waking up will. Waking up meaning becoming more self-aware, more having a greater degree of perspective of what our inner dialogue is saying to us, understanding that we are putting these walls up in front of ourselves, and knowing how it's happening. What is it that we're doing to ourselves? And so the biggest, maybe most impactful thing that we can do is to learn a series of tools and strategies to become very present, very quiet, and very focused, which are things that we are not doing on a regular basis. In fact, in our society, as we become a noisier and noisier society, we have no tolerance for silence. You know, it used to be when when you and I were younger, you know, when you were waiting in line to go, to go somewhere, you were just waiting in line. You weren't like, tweeting and, looking at your computer or looking at your phone. You had nothing else to do. So you had to experience and get comfortable with what we would now call the terrible discomfort of silence. Mm-hmm. And nowadays, every little bit has to be filled up with something. We become distracted so easily. And it's that hunger to be constantly stimulated that keeps us from doing the work that we need to do to get comfortable in silence and to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. What the Navy SEALs call embrace the suck. Mm-hmm. All right. So how do we do that? How do we wake up? How do we get out of this habitual way of thinking, what I call the hypnotized mind? Because in essence, we're all hypnotized. We're all stuck behind these invisible walls, and these voices are playing out in our subconscious mind and keeping us from achieving what we want. Well, how do we get up and over the top of that? And the answer is to wake up. And waking up involves a series of practices that involve separating yourself from your thinking mind. So you don't identify yourself as your thoughts, but that you can actually see your thoughts as opposed to being your thoughts. You know, a quick example of that. You've got something to do, and you walk in the house and it's time to get a few things done. You have to go to the bathroom, but you're not consciously aware that you have to go to the bathroom. You're just feeling really antsy. You know that feeling? It's like you start rushing around and trying to get things done, and then at some dawns on you that, wait a minute, I think I've got to go to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And you go to the bathroom and you experience relief, and then you can get back to what you were doing before without the pressure, in that case, physical pressure on you, right? Mm-hmm. So it's something that was there all the time, you just weren't really aware of it. It's the same thing with our thoughts. We're constantly saying things to ourselves that might be diminishing our effectiveness. Maybe if you're in sales, there's a voice in your head, a subconscious voice that's keeping you from picking up the phone or making your calls. Or maybe you feel like it's rude to push back when somebody offers an objection. There are all sorts of things that get in the way, and they really come from old messages in your head. Whereas when you realize that those are the messages, when you realize that your head is just telling you all this stuff, now you get to do the next most powerful thing you can do, which is to learn how, this is my mantra, don't believe everything you think.
Don't believe everything you think. Tell us a little more about that.
How many thoughts have you had over the course of a day that you've allowed yourself to think and allowed yourself to ruminate about? When was the last time, for example, that you were in a fight with somebody, or somebody disappointed you, and you spend the rest of the day thinking about it and churning about it, and it fills up the silence in your mind? Mm-hmm. Because at some level you really, really think, you really, really believe that if you think about this long enough, you're going to figure out how to fix it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like when I'm in a fight with somebody, which luckily doesn't happen very often anymore in my life, but when I used to, the only thing I'd be thinking about is, how can I make them realize how wrong they are? How can I finally get this person to realize that they're the jerk, not me? Right? And so I'm busy believing the thoughts in my head that are telling me I've got to keep on trying to work this thing out, as if it's going to get me anywhere. Whereas the reality is that if I could just sort of put it on the back burner, if I could just step away from this thing that's grabbing my attention, 99% of the time, when my emotions calm down, the crisis will resolve itself. And the other 1% of the time, when my emotions calm down, I'll have a better idea of how to deal with the problem. So all the thoughts that I was having weren't really helpful, but I was busy believing them. I was busy following this stream of thought, what we call churning. My churning mind would just never shut up. So for you as a sales professional, for you as an entrepreneur, to be highly successful, to be free to accomplish what you set out to accomplish. As you navigate from where you are to where you want to be, the obstacles along the way, many of them, the first recognition that we have to have is that most of our obstacles are up here. We're in our own way. We're, spinning off in our own negative directions. And then the next thing is, okay, if that's true, and there's such a strong pull to let my brain take me off on a tangent rather than getting back to where I need to be in order to get my job done, well, then what do I need to do to turn this thing off? Like, where's the off switch? How much more effective would I be if all the things that troubled me just shut themselves off? There's a story, a monastery many years ago, where all the monks observed a strict vow of silence, except on January 1st, when one monk among the many for that particular year would get to stand up and make an utterance, a single sentence that would reflect what he had discovered during the course of his prior years of silence. And so it came time for Brother Francisco to stand up and share. So he stands up and in a very resonant voice says, "These robes are very itchy." And of course, nobody says anything.
Right.
Well, a year goes by, and now it's Brother Jonathan's chance to stand up and talk. And Brother Jonathan gets up and he says, "I'm so sick of Brother Francisco's constant complaining." And if you think about it, it's like that guy had said one thing 1 year, and Brother Jonathan then carried it with him for a whole year until he could finally say something about it. And how often do we do that? How often does something happen in our lives and we hang on to it for dear life? Like, how many people do you know who have family members that they're estranged from because of something that happened 10 years ago? We carry the weight of our old experiences with us as if we have to, as if there's no way to let them go. So we really need to learn how to let stuff go, because if we can, we've got less baggage and we're therefore more effective getting the things done that need to get done.
I love that phrase, don't believe everything that you think, which is interesting and so well put. There's a question when someone goes back and they read in this term called hypnosis, and you have a term, something called UnHypnosis. Yeah. And I'm curious, take a moment for the viewers and myself included, what in the LL Cool J is UnHypnosis? Can you break that thing down for us?
The story I told you about the guy behind the wall, right? So he was hypnotized. The interesting thing is he didn't know he was hypnotized. If you were to ask him, I say, "Are you hypnotized?" He says, "No." "Are you having fun?" "No." "Then why don't you leave?" "I'm not going to give you the satisfaction." So again, he doesn't know he's hypnotized. The question I began to ask myself after that experience was, how do we know that we're not hypnotized? How do we know that we're not walking through life stuck behind invisible walls, thinking that all the things that are stopping us are real? Oh, I can never leave this horrible job that I hate because I need the health insurance. How many people give away their happiness and their joy for the rest of their lives because they need health insurance, not realizing that if they leave that job and become entrepreneurs and get a better job and have more fun and make more money, they could pay for their own health insurance. But they never thought to ask the question, right? Because they're believing what they think. They're the voice that says, "I need health insurance." They're not challenging that supposition. And so, how many times have you met somebody who you say to them, "Boy, you would be great on stage. You'd be, you've got something to say." And they say, "Oh, I could never get up on stage," or I'm not good in front of people, or I can't sing, or I can't do math, or I can't, whatever it is, I can't this, I can't this, I can't this. That's just a voice in your head that you've started to believe because of repetition. And now it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now you live your life with the belief that you're in, let's say, "Oh, I'm not popular," or "People don't like me." Well, now you're going to do everything possible to prove that true. So your life becomes defined by these beliefs that were never true in the first place, but now you're making them true. So that's why I say, don't believe everything you think.
As folks are listening, thanks for sharing. Don't believe everything that you think. Someone do me a favor, write that right below the video. Look right below the video and write those words. Don't believe everything that you think. And then put hashtag Steve Taubman. Did I get it right that time?
Yeah, Taubman,
Yep.
Taubman.
Taubman.
Yep.
Go ahead and write that right now. Don't believe everything that you think. And you, as you're listening, if you're like myself, and I might be the only one that's thinking this right now, but as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, okay, sounds easy. Easy to do to me. Got to change these thoughts in my head. So why do people, or what stops people from changing? Because you just gave us the formula. You just told us what to do, right? And right now I have the best intentions, but I might not get the best results because I don't change. So my question is, what stops people, Steve, from changing?
Okay. First of all, it is simple, but it's not easy.
Okay.
It's simple in that there is a formula, there is a path. It's not easy though, because much like it's simple to lift 300 pounds over your head, but it's not easy if you don't have the strength to lift 300 pounds over your head. It's simple because it's just like you go like this, right? So there's not a lot of complexity to it, but whether you're able to do it or not depends a lot, in that case, on the physical strength that you've gained from exercise. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, it's exactly the same with what we're talking about here, because it's a regime of strength. Do you have the necessary strength to come to a situation in your life where, in this particular moment, let's say you could take the high road or the low road? You know, you're aggravated with somebody, and you could either choose to just keep on, churning about it or yelling at that person or making yourself right, or you could take the high road, which is, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to take a few deep breaths, I'm going to allow myself to reframe it and maybe look at it in a new way. I'm going to let it go. Maybe I'll even look at how I might be responsible. That's a choice point, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how much strength do you have to choose the high road if your whole life has been spent doing it the other way, right? So we become kind of wired to think a certain way and to behave a certain way. And because of the constant repetition of that approach, our minds have got us, by the nose, right? They're just leading us around. So it becomes a matter of necessary strength, so that at those moments when there is in fact a path, a simple but not easy path, you've been working hard on developing the strength to take the high road.
Developing the strength to take the high road. Here's what we're going to do. For those folks that are watching right now, do me a favor, and I'm sure you have Steve's permission as well. Look right below the video and hit the share button. Hit the watch party button. And we want you to pay this message forward. This is something that Steve Taubman gets paid to do on stage, by the way. And he's here sharing the best ideas he knows and really the strategies with the Happy Entrepreneur Tribe. So do me a favor, hit the watch party button or hit the share button. And when you hit the share button, I want you to write these words: it's time for your breakthrough. Just put, it's time for your breakthrough. Hashtag Steve Taubman. Go ahead and do that right now. And that's spelled Taubman. Just go ahead and do that right now. It's time for your breakthrough. Just hit the share button. Hit the watch party button. If you're listening to the podcast, you can take the link and you can copy the link and put it into your private group. Or if you're on Amazon Fire or Apple TV, go ahead and share this message forward, because when we come back in less than 2 minutes, I'm going to ask Steve to really break down what principles does he live by. I'm going to ask him. And I'm also asking the question, how do you thrive under pressure? I mean, seriously, because I know many of you are like myself, and I was having a conversation with a young lady earlier today, and she's a mom, and she gets up in the morning, takes care of her husband, takes care of her 2 kids. She takes them to school, drops them off. Then she goes to work, works all day, and then comes home and works on her business. And it's a lot of pressure, but she's thriving. And I'm not going to mention your name right now, but the question came up. So, Steve, we come back in less than 2 minutes. Now, if you didn't hit the share button, you did it, hit it again. Or copy the link, and you can copy and put it on LinkedIn. If you're watching live and you're able to watch right now, do it now. Do it now. Do it when? Now. We come back. The principles that he lives by, number 1. And number 2, how do you thrive under pressure? Like, really? Like, how does he make it happen? We'll be back in less than 2 minutes. We're going to go over now to Sean Harper. Sean Harper is up in Ohio, and he's going to talk about the law of capacity. That's right, the law of capacity. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes. Thank all of you. Hit the share button. We appreciate it. Pay this message forward. We're going to bless someone else because we believe in the giver's economy. The giver's economy says the person out gives the competition. Guess what they do? They out earn the competition. We'll be back in just a minute. Take it away, Sean. Love it.
Hi, my name is Sean Harper, motivational speaker, author, investor. I love investing in people because people have the potential of generating years of dividends. This is my January 1st. And as I'm moving in January 1st, I have to be mindful of the laws, the law of capacity. Now, if you know me, I break all the rules, but I never break laws. If you break laws, laws will break you. Laws are unchangeable. So the law of capacity is that you will grow in proportion to your environment. It reminds me of a story of a guy named Walt Disney. We all know Walt Disney, but Walt Disney started out after a couple failed ventures. He started out with Disneyland, south of Anaheim, California. And he had great success, but he had one challenge. He was landlocked. And so he couldn't expand. And so he secretly, anonymously, began to buy up land in the Orlando area. And he formed shell companies, and he brought 500 acres here, 100 acres here with this company, and maybe 2,000 acres with this company. And he went on, and a investigative journalist caught on to it, but not until he amassed over 26 to 30,000 acres. And now that man, who is now deceased, still has land that's not been developed. His dream was huge, but his capacity was small. One of the problems or challenges that we face as entrepreneurs, as business owners, business leaders, is that we run out of capacity. When there's stress in the business, when there's stress as an entrepreneur, it's usually one or two problems. A, you don't have the systems, or B, you have a lack of capacity. That is a spiritual law. And I often compare spiritual laws or look for evidence of spiritual laws in nature. You take a shark, put it in the fish tank, it gets this big. Take that same baby shark, put it in the ocean, it gets this big. Before you dream, or right after you dream, the first thing you do is you begin to build your capacity. Before you build up, you gotta build down. Thank you. Play to win. Bye-bye.
Well, it's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome back to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue-focused late-night show in the country where we're on a mission. And our mission is to inspire. Our mission is to empower. And our mission is to provide you, the entrepreneur, with all of the resources necessary to execute that huge vision that you have for the people you were called to serve. And Steve stopped by this morning, this evening, this afternoon, whatever time it is for you, wherever you are in the world, for one reason and one reason only, and that's to make sure you have the resources that you can take care of yourself first. I think there's a saying that says you must be a leader of one before you can be a leader of many. And so these skills are very, very applicable to you. I asked them just before the break, I said, Steve, we'd like to know, if you don't mind peeling the onion, like what principles, foundation, those are principles. What principles do you live by?
You know, for me, first of all, when I was 13 years old, I was introduced to the Broadway play Man of La Mancha. And it was a story of Don Quixote, who sort of saw the world through the eyes of wonder and really, you know, was able to treat everyone with dignity and respect. So much so that even people who prior had, you know, seen themselves in a negative way would then see themselves in a more positive way just because they were seeing themselves through his eyes. So I've always tried to be somebody who can see past the darkness, the negativity, and help see people in the very, very best possible light. And one of the principles of my life is the idea to see beyond what's right in front of my face and see what's possible, to see the goodness, the pure goodness that's behind everybody. Because I think that almost everybody, maybe there are people who are legitimately evil, but I haven't met them personally. And usually when people are acting in a bad way, it's because they're in pain. Mm-hmm. So I think that for me, kindness and generosity are really guiding principles in my life. Another guiding principle in my life is one that I call make your bed, which is activates the law of impeccability, which basically says start every day the way you want your day to end. Do everything with impeccability, everything with excellence, even the small things, because not only are you setting up a habit pattern that's going to make you more effective with everything else you do. You know, Darren Hardy, I think, who said, how you do anything is how you do everything. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, discipline is freedom. You know, the idea that if you start applying disciplines in your life, then you're free to stay on the course you want to be on rather than falling off the course you want to be on because emotionally you don't feel like it, right? So a lot of people try to get motivated and excited in order to achieve a goal, but the reality is that the people who are consistently successful aren't relying on momentary emotions. You can't sustain a feeling of excitement indefinitely. It's going to go away. So you've got to have a more effective strategy for staying the course, right? So that effective strategy in my mind is creating disciplines, creating rituals. The people who are highly successful tend to have more rituals. We all have rituals. We wake up in the morning, we brush our teeth, we put on our clothes, I walk the dog. But the more rituals you have, that you follow regardless of how you feel, the more you're developing a habit pattern that makes you, it's essentially like creating a code of conduct. You know, and if you have a code of conduct, then you behave a certain way, whether or not you're getting the reaction you want, right? So I'm going to be nice to other people. I'm going to treat people with kindness and respect and generosity, whether or not that's what they're giving back to me. And that kind of consistency really frees me up, right? And then another part is the part that you mentioned a little bit earlier, which is vision. So I live my life based on the idea that left to my own devices, I'll probably collapse into looking at all the negatives. That's what we all do. Like, you know, what's the problem right now and how, you know, what do I need to do to try to fix it? And so that's what so many of us do. We get so caught up in the negatives that we stop looking at what's possible. We stop painting our picture. So I say paint your picture, create an image of how you want your life to look, and then deliberately and diligently and repetitively keep seeing that vision. Maybe you record it on your phone and you listen to it every day to remind yourself of where you're heading. What is it that you're doing? Why and why are you doing it? Now, Simon Sinek, you know, who did a TED Talk called The Power of Why, and he wrote a book, I think it's Ask Why First or something like that.
Yeah. Start with Why. He has so many books, but Start with Why, yeah.
And I sort of agree, but I think that there's one step before that, and that is start with who. Who am I being? Right? Who am I? Even before I come to why do I want this or why do I want that or what is it that I want? It's like, who am I being in the world? Because, you know, you and I both know that you can meet 5 different people all in the same career with the same training and the same knowledge and the same everything, but some of them you're going to be drawn to and some you're not. And it's often because of who they're being, like what's the essence of them that's bubbling up, right? So to me, knowing who I am, right? Socrates said, know thyself. That's a function of mindfulness. That's a function of practicing the art of getting quiet and being with myself so that I'm not, again, being bamboozled by my own brain, by my own thoughts.
Man, I love it. I love it. That's right on point. And, you know, that brings us to a good point here because one of our visions and one of our own core values is a term called today is my January 1st. Today is your January 1st. And that term, for those folks that are hearing it for the very first time, for those folks that have heard it before, and you're like, Shay, I love it. It's one of my favorite segments. And if you heard it before, you can go and look right below the video right now. But today is my January 1st. And the reason that term exists, Steve, just to give some context for folks that are listening, is today is your January 1st represents that moment where you make a decision, and that decision can change the trajectory of your life. And there's many moments through your life. So every time you make a decision, it's a January 1st moment. You don't have to wait to January 1st. Every day is your January 1st. You get a restart, you get a rebirth, you get a new opportunity, you get a do-over. Your past does not equal your future. You live in the present moment. And so, Steve, when I think of today as my January 1st, I think of the person that either goes to the gym or they sit on a couch, right? They either eat hamburgers and French fries, or they go to their refrigerator, they open it up, and there's some broccoli in there, and there's some celery in there, there's some Brussels sprouts. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? And they do that. My question to you, so I can ask the question, really is, when you hear today is your January 1st, what do you hear? What goes through your mind? Why is that a important affirmation?
The first thing I thought of was the movie City Slickers with Billy Crystal, old movie where he talks about a do-over. You know, he was living a very conventional kind of life and he was unhappy, and his wife basically kicked him out of the house. He said, "You've got to go do something," and he goes on one of these ranch trips, like cattle drives, and you know, has this profound transformation in his life. And he said, you know, when you were a kid and they used to say do-over, he said, this is my do-over, right? This is, you know, I'm getting to do it all over again. And you're right. I mean, in any one moment in our lives, we have the opportunity, we have the invitation stands that you can have a do-over. And everything that came up to now can be put aside as long as you're willing to let it go. You know, as long as you're willing to forgive yourself, as long as you're willing to recommit. And commitment is a big part of what you're talking about. And for many of us, we don't know how to make that commitment, right? We're waiting until we're in the mood to do it. And sometimes we just have to hit bottom, or we've got to just get so sick of things the way they are before we're finally ready to say do-over or January 1st. And now, but at least knowing, as you said, that every day can be January 1st, it's like, it's so easy to say, oh, that won't work for me because it never worked before. But you used one of my favorite quotes, which was, your past does not equal your future.
Yeah, so true. And that leads to another question, of course, another question, right? But as I'm listening, I'm wondering, Steve, what was your January 1st moment? I mean, the moment that you decided that I'm going to be an entrepreneur, that I'm going to draw a line in the sand, I'm going to plant my flag, and I'm going to help people really have these mental breakthrough and breaking through the barriers that are in front of them. What was your January 1st moment?
Well, of course, those of us who are on a path have many of them, right?
Yeah.
And I could think of a few, and I could think of a few recent ones, but the one I think is most fun to talk about was that back in my days as a chiropractor, I had a very big, busy chiropractic practice for a number of years. And I was unhappy at some point. I came to a point where I just didn't like doing it anymore. It's a great profession. It just wasn't for me. And it's a really hard thing when you're successful, financially successful at something. It's hard to extricate yourself from it because, you know, why would you? It's like people say, you're good at this, you're successful, why would you leave? And I knew I needed to. And so I kept on trying to remotivate myself to enjoy it. And I got to a point in my practice where I noticed I would look at my watch like 10 times by 9 o'clock in the morning. Like time was just dragging on, and I knew things weren't where I wanted them to be, but I still couldn't really, flip the switch. One day, I'm at a chiropractic seminar, and I was watching a motivational speaker who was getting everybody in the room riled up about how awesome it is to be a chiropractor. And everybody's like, yeah, you know, it's great. We love our practice and we love what we do. We love the difference we make. And I wanted to be excited, right? I felt like I should be excited, but I wasn't excited. And so I was sitting in the back of the room at the seminar. This is back in 1996. And I had a magazine in front of me, and it was a chiropractic magazine. And I turned to the back of the magazine and I found the classified ads. And in the classified ads, I found an ad for a company that appraises practices to be sold. And I got up right in the middle of the seminar, right then and there, and I walked out to a payphone. That was in the days of payphones, right? And I walked out to a payphone and I picked up the phone and I called that company. I said, I'm selling my practice. I had no idea what was next. It was just like, that was my January 1st. I knew that I could no longer continue living my life the way I was living it. I needed a change. I needed to be willing to jump into the void without necessarily knowing what was next. And it was a profound moment in my life because I felt like, okay, now what? Right? And a lot of amazing things spun out from that, because that's that moment, you know, where that great poem or that great essay by I think William Murray, who climbed Everest, who said, until one is committed, there's hesitancy. There's a chance to draw back. But once you make that commitment, the universe lines up and all manner of unforeseen activities take place that you never could have expected or predicted. Wow. And that's what happened for me.
Hey, thanks so much for being authentic. Thanks for sharing. I'm curious, the number of folks that are writing today is my January 1st. They're like, yeah, it's my time, Shay. It's my time. I'm ready for this mental breakthrough, just like they were back on December 31st. They might have wrote down some goals on the back of a napkin after a couple of drinks and cocktails right now, and they forgot all about them. I don't know if you noticed, but January 17th is National Ditch Your Resolution Day. No, seriously, you can go Google that. January 17th is National Ditch Your Resolution Day, and people ain't forgot all about whatever they wrote down. Huh?
Yeah. I said, I'm surprised people last that long.
That's the national day to ditch it. My question to you directly is, we're coming down the home stretch of our time together, but my question is, what do you tell folks or share with your clients to be consistent? I mean, we heard before, consistency is the key. Consistency is the key. Consistency is the key. And having said that, most people struggle with the consistency. So what's your message to someone out there that said, that's me, Shay, that's me?
Yeah. Here's where the rubber meets the road, and all the stuff we've talked about up to this point, this is where it really comes in, okay? Mm-hmm. So I was talking about necessary strength and all that.
Yeah.
So here's what happens is, if you're doing the necessary work to strengthen up your ability to focus, maybe you're meditating, maybe you're just, taking moments every day, going out into nature and looking at things and not letting your mind wander, but you're gradually bringing your attention back until you gain the strength. Now what you get to do, because you've gained the strength, what you get to do is to make a resolution. This is what I want to accomplish. The very next thing you need to do is write it down, which a lot of people don't do. And you need to read it regularly, and you need to have at least one small step that you can take toward the attainment of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So it's not overwhelming yourself. It's just having one small action and knowing that you'll consistently take that one small action every day. Now, the moment when you notice that you've run out of enthusiasm, that's the moment when you need to realize that enthusiasm is not the fuel that's going to drive you to your goal. Commitment is. If commitment becomes the fuel that's going to drive you to your goal rather than the emotion, then you get to realize right up front what most people don't do. See, most people think, I'm so excited, I'll be excited all the time. They don't stop to think, you know what, a week from now, I'm not going to feel this way. What am I going to do? What am I going to do when that happens? So they're not preparing for that dip. But you do. You're going to prepare for that dip by saying, I'm writing it down, I'm following these steps, I'm doing one small thing, and when I notice my emotions beginning to pull me off course, I'm going to bring my focus and my attention back to the goal at hand, because I want to live my life that way. I want to live my life as somebody who is consistent, who's living, on purpose, who has integrity. Integrity is that you say what you'll do and you do what you say, right? That your word has value. And so you want to live your life in a way where the words that you speak you are always following through on the words you say. And little things will make you better and better at that. So you tell somebody you're going to call them at 2 o'clock, call them at 2 o'clock. Don't call them at 2:01. Don't call them at 2:05. Call them at exactly 2 o'clock. Start getting the habit of developing precision and accountability for doing little things right, and you'll find that the bigger things get easier.
I love it. I love it. Thanks so much for sharing. When we come back, we're going to ask Steve to give his final thoughts to close us out. But before he does that now, Steve, how can folks that are listening right now, they want to stay in this conversation, how can they best connect with Steve?
Well, my website is stevetaubman.com. That's Steve, Taubman.com.
Okay. Say that one more time. Everyone, let's all type the website in. Let's all make sure it works. Nothing personal, Steve, but sometimes these websites, glitches happen, bugs happen. But let's see if he has the mental barrier to get through to make sure his website works. So go ahead and open up a browser now. You can do it now. The best time to do it is now o'clock time, right? That's what it is. It's now o'clock time. So type in Steve and then spell your last name for him.
T as in Thomas, A-U, B as in boy, M-A-N.
Okay. All right. So go pull up. Let's make sure. Here it is. We made to pull up the site. Okay. Once they get to the site, oh man, there's no way he can get off of here without telling us what is Zen and how people thrive under pressure. He can't do the whole presentation, but he's got to give us the 1 minute or 3 minute version on what in the LL Cool J is Zen, and at least his view of the world. It's right on the front of the site here. And how do you thrive under pressure? All right, Steve, maybe in your closing comments, you're going to wrap that in there. All right, we're on your site now, which is great. Where do we go? Oh, check this out. You have a book.
Oh yeah, I've got a few books. By the way, here I've got a show and tell item for you. I've got a new book coming out next week. Where I don't know how to get it into
Okay,
this.
well, hold that, and we'll come back to that so I can get it right on the screen. Oh, they can see it there in the small box. When we come back, we're gonna make it big screen for you so they can do that. They have the site up now, so they're kind of looking at your site. Where do they go to your? What do you want them to? What button you want them to connect with? Oh, look, meeting planners. Oh,
Yeah, now if you go to the bottom of the page, very bottom of the page.
But I can't get there, man. There's so much cool stuff here. Look at this. He even does presentations on here. So if you're an event planner or someone needs to reach out, he does. I guess you speak on stages because you're doing it at Habitude Warrior, which is with Eric Swanson, habitudewarrior.com. But it looks like he has some cool topics here. Oh, this is really cool. All right, so they can reach out to you. I'm going to the bottom. Oh, here we go. We've made it to the bottom, ladies and gentlemen. This is a great site. Steve's mindfulness community. Okay, I don't have time to get into mindfulness. We have to bring them back about mindfulness. That's a big word. All right, so once we'll go, everyone go ahead and put your name and information in, and go ahead and opt in. And Steve, they opt in and they join your mindfulness community. Tell us a little bit about the community. Take a minute and tell us about the community.
So first thing you'll get is a free copy of my first book on hypnosis, the one we've been talking about, and then you'll get my daily wake-up call, Dr. Steve's daily wake-up call. And we send out emails with just short snippets that'll kind of get you going for the day, kind of wake you up and make you perform and function at a really high level and cheer you up for the day. So a lot of fun stuff.
Oh, man, this is cool. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to make sure I do this right now. So I'm going to do this. We're going to get that on there. And then show them they brought it back to us. Show them the book. You say you have a copy of your upcoming book?
Let me see. How do I get it into the screen?
Hold. I'll make sure they get it to you full screen. There you go. Tell us the name of the book for those folks that are watching on their small phones right now.
Bulletproof. What if everything that bugged you, blocked you, or brought you down didn't? So this is a book about being mentally resilient, being able to perform at very high levels on the battlefields of life when all the stuff is coming at you. So it's a really practical book about how to operate your mind under pressure. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun for people to read. So it will be up on Amazon next week. And please, by all means, get yourself a copy. Get one for a friend. It's a great book.
Cool. And how can people get a copy of it, a pre-copy of it? Did they come back to your website?
No, I don't think it's on my website yet.
Okay.
Eventually it will be, but just find it on Amazon.
Go on Amazon. Oh, thanks a lot. We come back. Steve's going to have his final thoughts, final comments. Want to connect with him? Tell him once again the website to connect with you on.
Steve Taubman, Taubman, SteveTaubman.com.
Okay, and you can go ahead and submit. I will confirm that I did hit the submit button. It does work. It does work. Sometimes people have bugs on their stuff, but it does work. So that's really cool. So I made it to the next stage, and you can follow the instructions, which are really, really cool. When we come back and
also mention that the Habitude Warrior site. If you go visit Habitude Warrior, there's a part there where you can meet the speakers, and you'll find some information about me there too. And that's a great site to visit too.
So that's Habitude
Warrior.
Okay, I'm going to go right there. And again, the person that connected us together was Eric Swanson. All right, here we go. And tell us why Eric's a cool guy.
Why is Eric a cool guy? Eric is one of the most generous, upbeat people I've ever met. And he's just somebody, he's probably got the most extensive Rolodex of remarkable people that he knows and that he's friends with. So when he puts on a conference, he just brings in some of the best people. And every one of them is full of knowledge and wisdom and generosity. So he's been a really powerful force in my life, and I appreciate him for it. So there's Eric right there in the middle, pointing in both directions. And then some of the other people in that picture are Frank Shankwitz, the founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation, and Jonathan Horton, the 3-time Olympic medalist in gymnastics, and Alex Stern, the founder of Constant Contact. So you got a really neat lineup of people in that picture, and that's typically what happens at our conferences. We bring in these remarkable people to put on a conference that really changes lives.
Man, go to habitudewarrior.com. Again, habitudewarrior.com. Eric, thanks a lot for connecting us. Thanks for all that you're doing, man. You're a rock star. We come back in less than 2 minutes. I'm going to ask Steve if he have his final thoughts. Maybe he'll wrap in there that whole thing about how do you thrive under pressure. He can't do it in the time he has, but maybe he'll give you a snippet, maybe one idea on how to thrive under pressure. But I'm going to encourage you all to make sure you visit his website. It's Steve, and then his last name. Spell it for him again one more time.
Taubman.
Taubman. Go there.com. Go to the bottom. Don't get stuck watching all the videos and stuff up top, okay? Because that's what I did. Go to the bottom first, and you can go ahead and you can put your first name and your email in, and you'll get a copy of his free book. He didn't say a chapter. Some people only give you a chapter. He's giving you the whole book. That's pretty cool. Some people only give you a chapter. You get the whole book. And then you also get a cool wake up or a cool motivational or a cool thought of the day gift. I think he says it comes to you to help get you going every single day. Is that correct?
That's the plan.
Yeah, that's the plan. It's going to happen. If that's the plan, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. We believe. We believe. We believe. I had to say that. Sorry, I had to say I've lost my mind, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with the one and only Steve, by the way. He's throwing down. We come back in less than 2 minutes. We'll ask him maybe 1 or 2 questions that he's going to close us out. He's in overtime right now. We appreciate so much time he's given. He can always make more money, but he can't make more time. Like all of y'all can make more money, but not one of us, including Steve, can make more time. So we're getting the most precious gift that he has. He never asked me for a Cash App payment at all. Didn't ask me for a Zelly payment. There was no wire transfer. He showed up to serve, and we appreciate that. We'll be back in just a moment. Let's go over to Rob Howes. Rob Howes talks about be present where you are. Be present where you are. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes. Take it away, Rob.
Hey guys,
All right.
me and Daddy are here.
All right, I'm doing a video.
I got a question.
No, it's not a question. This is a video where I'm telling people something. I'm telling them that today is their January 1st. Today is your January 1st, Happy Entrepreneurs Tribe, because today is the only day you got. Because tomorrow's not promised and yesterday is gone. So the reason why today being your January 1st is significant because it keeps you from procrastination. Procrastination is the destroyer of dreams. Yeah, it's the destroyer. It's the killer of dreams. So take action. Be present where you're present. That's the real gift. Be present where you are present. That is the real gift. Today is your January 1st. Say today.
Today.
Say today is your January 1st.
Today is January 1st.
Say it loud.
Today is January 1st.
That's it. Don't forget it.
Well, it's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome back to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue-focused late-night show in the country where we're on a mission. That is to empower, that is to inspire, and that's to provide you, the entrepreneur, with all of the resources necessary to execute that huge vision that you have for the people you were called to serve. And we're talking to one and only Steve this evening, and he's really breaking down how to break through mental barriers so you can achieve success and be resilient at the end of the day. Boy, we could have had a whole week conversation on this. Steve, let me first say thank you. We appreciate your heart to give, a heart to serve, and the way that you gave the best ideas you had without holding back. Take a moment, if you will, and I want to pass it over to you to close us out, by the way. Give us your final thoughts, any ideas that you have, something that's on your heart that you'd like to share with all the folks that are watching right now. And it's a huge audience. Some folks are doing really, really well, Steve, and they've got to keep it going. And the better they do, the more pressure there is there. Excuse me, the more pressure there is there. Other folks are having some high highs and some low lows right now, some high highs and some low lows. And I've been on a roller coaster ride myself. And then there's others that have been hit in the face with a ton of bricks right now. Something showed up. It's a challenge, but they're hanging in there. And so as you close out, man, we appreciate it again. Thank you. Thank Eric Swatson. Thank the whole Habitude Warrior family. And thank you for all that you do, man. We appreciate it. We've got to have you back. I turn it over to you to give your final thoughts, my man.
Well, yes, it's my pleasure and it's our pleasure from Habitude Warrior to be here with you and make this thing happen. So I'm going to do my best to meet your challenge and offer at least one thing in a very short period of time that you can all do right now that will allow you to take all of the stress and strain and diversity and change going on in your life and just get balanced real quick. And it's something that I call get out of your head and into your body. And get out of your head and into your body basically means that the next moment that you start to feel overwhelmed, aggravated, fearful, angry, anxious, or whatever it is that's taking you off your path, whereas what we usually do is we start thinking more and more about that thing and it just ends up getting worse. What I'm going to recommend you try next time you start feeling overwhelmed, getting out of your head and into your body, which basically simply means Notice that something happened and that you're feeling a certain way, and then immediately stop thinking about the thing that happened. And instead, put all of your attention on the physical sensations in your body. What does it feel like inside of you when you're angry or afraid or whatever the feeling is that you're feeling? Just let that become the focus of your attention rather than the focus being on what you're trying to fix or what went wrong or who you're mad at. Just start to explore the inner experience, the physical sensation of your discomfort, and just be with that. Breathe into it. Be okay with the feeling. Get tolerant of it and watch what happens. And I think what you'll discover is that if you could take your attention away from the thing that you're thinking about and bring your attention to the physical sensations you're experiencing, that whatever those feelings are that are really troubling to you, they'll start to dissipate. They'll start to burn themselves out. Just like with a fire, when you're sitting in front of the fire and watching the fire burn, if you stop throwing logs on it, eventually it's going to burn out. Well, your thoughts are logs. And so stop thinking about the thing that's making you upset and just sit and watch the fire and see what happens.
Wow, thanks so much, man. You're a rock star. We certainly appreciate every single one of you to watch it right now. I want you to know that you're already a winner. You're already a champion. You have so much greatness inside you. And today is your January 1st. You're going to break through that barrier. Today is your January 1st. You're going to have the mental resilience that you need. And today is your January 1st. You're going to take so much action. Do me a favor as we close out. Hit the share button. If you hit it one more time, hit it again. Hit the watch party button. Pay this message forward. Bless another human being. Change another life, or just make a difference for someone else. We appreciate every single one of you who tune in. With that being said, my name, for those folks that are just tuning in for the first time, my name, by the way, is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. And I promise you from the bottom of my heart, we'll make some good things happen. We connect again next time. God bless. And I wish you success. Thanks a lot, Steve. I really appreciate you, man. You are amazing. You're incredible. Thanks a lot. We're out of here. Promise I made to my mom. I only did this message for one person, and that's my mom. This is for you, Mom. Love you. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Shay Brown.
Mic check, mic check.
All I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
Yes. Yeah.
And they stay there, and they stay there, and they stay there. Cause all I do is win.
Yeah.
Thank you. God bless.